I've learned that some cases aren't loud. They don't begin with sirens. They don't leave behind broken doors or obvious chaos. They disappear quietly, and those are often the hardest ones to solve. This is one of those cases. On the afternoon of March 18, 2009, Claudia Lawrence finished her shift at the University of York. She worked as a chef, reliable, well-liked, known for showing up early and doing things properly. At 2 o'clock, she clocked out and walked home to her house on Pennyworth Road. Nothing unusual. Nothing that raised concern. That evening, at 8:10 p.m., Claudia spoke with her mother. Her voice was relaxed, unrushed, normal. They talked the way people do when nothing is wrong. At 9:12 p.m., Claudia received a final text message from a contact in Cyprus. That message would be the last confirmed communication she ever received. The next morning, Claudia didn't show up for work. Her shift started at 6 a.m. For most people, that might not mean much. An alarm missed, a bad night's sleep, a late train. But for Claudia, it meant everything. She didn't miss shifts. She didn't turn up late without calling. She didn't leave colleagues guessing. That was part of who she was. Reliable, predictable, steady. At first there was confusion. Maybe she'd overslept. Maybe her phone battery had died. Maybe she'd decided to take a day off and forgotten to tell anyone. Those are the explanations people reach for when they don't want to assume the worst. But as the morning went on, that comfort wore thin. Messages went unanswered. Calls weren't returned. No explanation followed the silence. And slowly, unease crept in. For the people who knew Claudia, this wasn't just absence. It was a break in pattern. And breaks in pattern matter. Because in missing person cases, routine is often the loudest signal we have. By mid-morning, concern turned into alarm. Not panic yet, but that quiet realization that something wasn't right. That this wasn't just a late start. That Claudia hadn't simply chosen not to show up. That moment, when concern hardens into alarm, is often where the truth begins to surface. Not because answers appear, but because the questions can no longer be ignored. And for Claudia Lawrence, that unanswered absence marked the point where an ordinary morning became something else entirely. A day that would never properly end. When police entered her home, they didn't find a crime scene in the traditional sense. There were no signs of forced entry, no overturned furniture, no visible struggle. Her bed was neatly made. Breakfast dishes sat in the sink, as if she'd started her morning routine and simply stopped. But important things were missing. Her work rucksack, her mobile phone, her passport and bank cards were still inside the house. That detail matters, because it narrows the possibilities. Investigators soon confirmed something unsettling. Claudia's phone didn't immediately disappear. It remained active in the local area throughout the morning of March 19th. At 12:10 p.m., it was manually switched off. Not powered down by battery loss. Turned off. By someone. CCTV footage added another layer to the mystery. On the evening of March 18th, at 7:15 p.m., cameras captured a man lingering near the narrow alley behind Claudia's home. He didn't pass through. He stayed. Long enough to be noticed. Then, just before dawn the next morning, at 5 to 7 a.m., the same area appeared on camera again. A man in the same narrow passageway. Same position. Same stretch of ground. It was a place most people only used to pass through. Not to wait. Not to watch. And seeing activity there twice, hours apart, raised questions investigators still haven't answered. Who was he waiting for? And why there? Another camera captured a silver Ford Focus braking near Claudia's house that morning. Not stopping long. Just enough to notice. Enough to raise questions. Years later, forensic reviews uncovered more. Unidentified male DNA on a cigarette, but found in Claudia's car. Fingerprints inside her home that did not belong to her, or to anyone police could identify. And yet, no charges. No body. No definitive answers. From early on, North Yorkshire police made their position clear. They believe Claudia Lawrence was murdered, and they believe the person responsible is someone she knew. That theory didn't come from instinct. It came from absence. No forced entry suggests familiarity. Her phone staying local suggests control. Her routine stopping mid-flow suggests interruption, not planning. Claudia's personal life has often been described as complex. That word gets used carefully by investigators. It usually means overlapping relationships, private arrangements, people who knew parts of her life, but not all of it. Police believe someone in her social circle knows what happened, and that belief has led to one persistent problem: a wall of silence. Over the years, 9 people have been arrested, not charged. Arrested, questioned, released. Each time, hope rises, and then falls back into quiet. In May 2014, a lab technician from the University of York was arrested on suspicion of murder. His home was searched, his car seized. He was released without charge later that year. In 2015, 4 men, later referred to locally as the Nag's Head 4, were arrested, all regulars at the Nag's Head, Claudia's local pub. Police compiled a detailed file and sent it to the Crown Prosecution Service. In 2016, all 4 were released. Insufficient evidence. Another arrest followed that same year. A man taken into custody at a pub in Ackham on suspicion of perverting the course of justice. Part of the pub's cellar was excavated. Nothing was found. He was released. Then there were the claims that went nowhere. A convicted murderer named Daniel Oxley claimed responsibility in 2015. Police dismissed it as attention-seeking. There were also speculative attempts to link the case to Christopher Hallowell, but CCTV placed Hallowell elsewhere that night. No physical evidence connected him to Claudia. That theory faded. Stranger abduction was considered. But police note those crimes are rare, and they leave traces. This one didn't. Voluntary disappearance was also floated early on. But Claudia left behind her passport, her money, her family ties. That theory was quietly ruled out. In 2021, police conducted a large-scale search of the sand hut and gravel pits after receiving new intelligence. Nothing was found. And then, years later, something changed. Not evidence, but attention. In 2024 and 2025, a podcast called Answers for Claudia, hosted by journalist Tom McDermott, brought new claims into the public eye, some of them unsettling. During filming in July 2025, McDermott and Claudia's mother visited Claudia's unoccupied home. Inside, they noticed something hadn't been documented before. A loft hatch. Disturbed. Moved. Joan Lawrence also reported something else. Something quieter. Something easy to overlook if you don't understand the history of that house. Clothing was missing from a wardrobe. Not recently disturbed. Not rummaged through in a hurry. A wardrobe that had remained untouched for years. Joan knew that space. She had checked it before. She had stood in that room in the years after Claudia vanished, taking comfort in the fact that everything was still where her daughter had left it. Nothing moved. Nothing missing. That stillness mattered, because it suggested no one had been back. But now, items were gone. Specific pieces of clothing Joan was certain had been there. Not misplaced. Not donated. Not removed by family. Gone. That detail changes the nature of the case, because it suggests movement long after the disappearance. Someone entering a home that should have been sealed in time. Someone touching belongings that had become almost sacred through their stillness. It raises questions investigators don't like to confront. Who had access? When did it happen? And why take clothing, of all things? Clothing is invaluable. It can't be sold easily. It doesn't explain itself, which means its removal likely wasn't practical. It was personal. For Joan, this wasn't just another unanswered question. It was a fresh violation. Proof that Claudia's absence wasn't confined to the past. That someone, somewhere, may still be interacting with the remains of her life. And that possibility is deeply unsettling, because it suggests this case isn't frozen in 2009. It may still be moving, quietly, in the background, where no one is supposed to be looking. A new witness also came forward through the podcast. A man claiming he saw Claudia on the evening of March 18th wearing a leather jacket. That detail prompted police to research the house and re-examine what they thought they knew. McDermott has stated that people of significant interest, individuals silent for 16 years, have now spoken. That information has been passed to police. In February 2025, North Yorkshire Police appointed a new senior investigating officer, John Sygrave. His mandate was clear: review everything, remain open-minded, start again where necessary. Later that year, police released an AI-enhanced age progression image, Claudia at 51. A reminder, not of hope, but of absence. So where does that leave us? A woman vanished from her home without violence. No broken locks, no overturned furniture, no signs of a struggle that would point clearly in one direction. Just absence. The kind that doesn't announce itself. Her phone stayed local, moving through familiar streets, pinged by nearby towers. It didn't race across the country. It didn't disappear immediately. It lingered, as if someone wanted to stay close, or make it seem that way. Then it went silent, manually switched off. Not lost. Not dead from a drained battery. Turned off by intent. That moment marks a line in the timeline. The point where whatever was happening stopped leaving digital traces. There were arrests. 9 of them. Each one carried hope. Each one suggested momentum. And each one ended the same way. Released. No charges. Insufficient evidence. 16 years of unanswered questions. 16 years of waiting for something solid. For a body. For a confession. For one person to say what they know. Time doesn't soften cases like this, it sharpens them. Because the longer silence holds, the harder it becomes to believe that the truth isn't being kept. Not lost, not forgotten, but actively guarded. This isn't a case defined by what we've learned. It's defined by what hasn't moved. And until something breaks that stillness, Claudia Lawrence remains not just missing, but suspended. Between memory and resolution. Between what we know and what someone has chosen not to say. This case isn't stalled because of lack of effort. It's stalled because of silence. Because someone, somewhere, knows more than they've said. And time has not loosened that grip. I'm Detective Pennyworth. And this is one of those cases that reminds you, not all mysteries are unsolved because the truth is hidden. Some remain unsolved because the truth is being protected. And until someone decides that silence is heavier than speaking, Claudia Lawrence's story remains unfinished. If you want to stay with these cases, the ones defined by absence, you could subscribe to the channel. We'll keep telling the stories that don't come with endings, but still deserve answers.